Adou Thiero checks in at number 25 on our Sleepers Media consensus big board. I had him at 24. Riley, you had him at 37. I was not the low man. You were the high man. Greg had him at 23. Dion had him at 26. Cart had him at 30. But
So
we generally view Thiero as a late first round pick, early second round pick. Improved his stock a lot this last year at Arkansas after an inconsistent freshman season at Kentucky, to put it nicely. Really saw some of those flashes at Kentucky turn to consistent production at Arkansas, which is, I think, what all of us wanted to see. So, what is it about his game that now is the time to make the jump to the NBA? What are the things that he does well that may translate to the professional ranks?
yeah, it's the athleticism. The first step is crazy. He flies above the rim like he nearly hits his head on the backboard. He's a sick lob threat. He gets to the rim in a flash. And I'll get ahead of this, Ralph, and say, like, I initially had him, 37 on my board. I had to go back and do a deeper dive of the tape, and I would comfortably take him like late first round now. I think I based my initial ranking too much off of what I saw of him at Kentucky because I watched him a good bit at Kentucky, and it always felt like the idea of Adou Thiero was better than Thiero himself. And I think just his injury and the 3-point percentage this past year kind of tainted my perception that I had to like look at him again with fresh eyes, just even prepping for this. Yeah, to that point, I think his handle is continuing to improve. And the story always circulates that he was like a 5'7" guard who hit a big growth spurt. And you can tell like he still has some of the like on ball skills. It's just like continuing to refine it as he grows into his body. He's still only 20 years old. But I thought at Arkansas last year, despite being a team that I wouldn't say had optimal spacing, like he would get the ball on a reversal and be at the rim in a flash. Like punching one on somebody. He had 45 dunks on the year despite the missed time. That's just on the offensive side. I think he really improved a ton as a defender as well. Again, the idea of Adou Thiero those first 2 years at Kentucky was like, oh, lockdown guy. But I thought the tape kind of told a different tale that he was mainly better as like a weak side rim protector, steals guy, not as much like a lockdown guy who could get it done one on one, like an ISO defense. But he became that at Arkansas this past year.
Yeah, he was their most consistent contributor for a good portion of the season, right? Boogie Fland and him were the duo of the first part of the year. Then obviously Boogie Fland gets hurt. Then it was Adou Thiero and whoever stepped up on any given night. He was the bedrock of that team offensively. Defensively, he seemed more engaged. I thought I think it's fair to say he needed some time to adjust to the college game.
Yeah.
When you are a highly rated freshman and you go play for Kentucky and you go play for John Calipari, there's an expectation that you're going to be one and done externally. A lot of freshmen just need time to adjust to the college game,
hmm
and I think it's very well a thing he just needed some time to adjust to the college game. That being said, some of the weaknesses showed itself. Then there's inconsistent perimeter shot, some shot selection. Again, the not always being locked in defensively are some things that have stuck out to me throughout his college career. What about for you?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, the jumper is obviously the biggest concern. Only made 11 threes last year, 25%. His free throw percentage was at 80% as a sophomore at Kentucky, and I thought his form looked really good. Dipped down to 68 last year, and I think that doesn't really seem like that much of a coincidence with the increase in volume. And I think that's a little concerning. The good news is his free throw rate is like insanely high. He draws a ton of contact, and so he will continue to get you the attempts, but you want to see that be in the 70s. And yeah, I kind of come back to the handle as well, to where his ultimate ceiling is. Can he be more than a play finisher? Can he be a self creator? The upside is there, but I thought there's still times where his handle just gets too loose. And for a guy of his size, his frame, I guess he doesn't have the lowest center of gravity, but sometimes like a smaller guards would just get up under him and pick his pocket in a way that's like, okay, like you gotta get better at this.
Yeah, yeah, I'm with you. He's a true off-ball guy. Like I
Mhm.
think the role for him in the NBA is most likely like a slasher, cutter,
Yeah.
menace in transition.
Yeah, I agree, but I don't know, man. I think there's still that potential for him to. I don't think he'll ever become a primary.
Yeah,
Like, as I know, I feel like that's the new NBA buzzword. Are you a primary? Like I don't know if he'll ever be that, but I think there's a lot of room for him to grow to be more of an on-ball guy who can do a little bit of self-creation.
Yeah, yeah. We have seven different categories here. We're going to talk through with the Adou Thiero, just like we have for all of our other top 79 prospects on the Sleepers Media Consensus Big Board. Make sure you check those out. The first category, though, is one word to describe a Adou Thiero. Riley, you're going to give your word, and then I will, and then we'll discuss. So, what is your word for Mr. Thiero? I
Chaos.
said power.
I like that one too. I said chaos just because he causes chaos defensively with his instincts, with that wingspan, with the athleticism. He's really good at like just like basically prowling passing lanes to get steals. And it's like, oh, there's where the chaos comes out, and he's a blur in transition. But there's also a little bit chaos in the amount of like his range of outcomes.
I think that's a perfect way to describe him. I went with power because just when you say Adou Thiero, what pops in my head is him like surging up for a left-handed slam that just
Hmm.
like goes through the rim and smacks off the ground because it's just he threw it down with everything that he had.
And he is one of those guys who's very comfortable going left too.
Yes,
He-
powerful, powerful athlete. Yeah. Is he more likely to hit his floor or his ceiling in the NBA, you think?
I said ceiling, and it's like that athleticism is just tantalizing to where again, I whenever I make my final big board, he'll be in the first round. And it's definitely there's definitely some risks to it, but yeah, just the physical skills and the bump in production this past year, I'm banking on him figuring out the jumper.
I'm going ceiling as well. Um, I think he will work on the jumper, but the athleticism and the strength I think is enough to have him slide down to the four and be like a smaller four man and handle that appropriately for the NBA,
Hmm.
um, which would allow him to stick on a roster and be a solid guy for a while. I
Hmm.
think I see that much more than him really struggling and falling out of the league, which I think is the floor for him. Anybody who doesn't have a consistent jumper, like you're at risk of being bound to the G League or Europe or wherever that's not the NBA playing professional basketball.
Yep,
But I think he's got enough other tools along with the athleticism to figure something out if he lands in the right spot. So
I'm
what
with
would
you.
be that right spot for Duthier? What's the best fit for him in your mind?
So I think it's the Sacramento Kings.
He is such a Kingsy player.
he, he would look good in the purple for sure. I can like close my eyes and picture him in those like black jerseys with the purple script.
He could also wear purple jerseys with some teal on them too and play for the Hornets. That's
Sell me on the Hornets fit.
um I will when I get to my best case comp.
Okay. All right. So for the Kings, for me, I'm just looking at their roster, and outside of DeMar DeRozan, outside of Domantas Sabonis, they could use help. I guess they still have Malik Monk in tow. They just are not flush with wings, and I think this would give him the opportunity to get on the court early. And even there's just some like enticing ways you could like he provides a nice athletic foil to Keegan Murray. And then in addition to that, like the play finishing alongside Sabonis could be a lot of fun as well.
I like that. The Hornets to me, you have Brandon Miller figured out. You have LaMelo Ball figured out. I think the jury is out on Miles Bridges and Mark Williams and how long they stick around. But that's
Hmm.
kind of your core right now. Outside of that, everything is up in the air, right? Even Salon, who you picked in the top 10 last year, did nothing.
Yeah, he
Did
stinks.
did nothing. So
30% from the field, right? Maybe even lower than that.
yeah, if you have needs, particularly needs on the wing, because Brandon Miller might be more of a two than a three, but can play either one. If you have needs on the wing, needs at the forward spots, there's an opportunity for Thiero to come in there and fill some of that too.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
think that makes some sense, but the Kings I like as well. I think there are a lot of teams that could use Thiero's skill and just boost, right? I think he's someone who could provide that spark.
Right.
If we're looking back on this draft in 5 years, in 2030, where is Adou Thiero in his career? Is he an All NBA guy, All Star, starter in the NBA? Excuse me, bench guy? Has he been relegated to the G League or playing overseas, or is he hosting a podcast?
I think he'll be on the bench. With my Kings pick, let's say, well, actually by then he could be a star now I'm thinking about it. I was just envisioning like him DeRozan and Keegan Murray being a nice like trio on the wing, but DeRozan might not even be playing by then, so maybe he's thrusted in the starting spot. But
Yeah.
I'll go the safe route and say bench.
I'll go bench as well. If he is starting, I think it is on like a bottom five team in the league that is
Hmm.
clearly trying to tank. Not that Thiero is like that kind of
Right.
talent, but I think he's better suited to be a bench guy on a better team.
Hmm. Yeah,
I
makes
think
a lot
that's
of
where he
sense.
ends up. What is his yearbook superlative? What is he most likely to do from this rookie
He-
class?
He's most likely to pull up to some public event, whether it's like a media appearance or maybe even like a Kentucky or an Arkansas game. Pull up to some sort of public event wearing an Arkansas shirt and Kentucky shorts. Like the
Okay.
Reed Shepherd. I feel like I mean he played for Cal at both schools. He strikes me. I know that like when he first hit the portal, it was like, oh, he doesn't want to play for Cal, and then he found his way back to Cal. They probably buried the hatchet. I think he's a Cal guy now, and he's gonna publicly go to bat for Cal.
This is very interesting that both of our brains went to the same place with the Adou Thiero. Because I had him most likely to pull a Reed Shepherd and just wear the gear of whatever school Calipari was at after Arkansas.
I can't believe we both picked that. That's hilarious.
When you follow Cal from one place to another, that
Hmm.
that might be the case. But yeah, if Cal
Which,
like leaves Arkansas and goes to coach at UNC after the Hubert Davis fiasco,
yeah, right.
he'd just be
Pull
rocking
it
the
up.
Carolina blue everywhere.
Hey, I would be about that. Pull up to the Dean Domadoo. But like he really there was rumors that he didn't like Cal. And I know Arkansas has crazy NIL, but still something had to be done there where he's a Cal guy now. I know his dad played for Cal as well, so it just makes too much sense.
It really does. It really does. We'll get into our player comps now. This is not your traditional player comp. We're not trying to figure out what he's going to look like. We have both the best case and worst case. So if everything breaks right, what does that look like for Duthiero? If everything breaks wrong, what's that 0.01% bad outcome for Duthiero? Let's start best case. Who did you have?
Best case is Jonathan Kaminga. I think they're the exact same archetypes. I would say at this point, I would take Thiero as an athlete and probably a defender too. Like that's where he could carve out his role in the NBA, leaning on those two things. But Kaminga is I would say overall just more skilled. But if Thiero can get to that point, I think it's an apt comparison.
So like a essentially an undersized power athletic four man
Yeah, pretty
kind of.
much.
We're on the same page. I went with Miles Bridges,
Oh, I
which
like that one too. Yeah.
translates to the Hornets.
Yeah,
Just,
right,
Bridges
right.
has developed the 3-point shot, but athlete who the strength of his game athleticism allowed him to play the four as someone undersized, and that has worked with the Hornets the way they want to run up and down. Like I think Thiero is going to thrive in an up and down system. So I think if everything works well, he's a Miles Bridges type guy.
Mhm.
What about worst case?
Worst case, I said Rondé Hollis Jefferson, another like high athlete, good defender type who never put it together offensively, and I think lasted 6 years in the NBA before going overseas.
Do you remember the guy who was like very much billed as a can't miss two-way three man who was just so powerful and so athletic and so skilled that everything he did at Arizona was like going to translate to everything in the NBA?
Stanley Johnson.
Stanley Johnson.
Man, we are way too similar on these. We both had the Cal shout and we both had Arizona wings as our worst case.
Well, Stanley Johnson was going to be that guy
Yeah.
and then got to the league and the athleticism was just kind of above average,
Hmm.
right? The strength, like, oh, I guess you have to be defense first guy. And then like the offense never came around and the defense was not good enough to have him be just that.
Hmm.
I think that's the worst case scenario for Thiero was where you get in and the athleticism allows you to blend in but not stand out.
Right.
And the lack of shooting creates your offense basically just becomes null and void.
Hmm. I like that one a lot too, Ralph. I was a big Stanley Johnson believer, so maybe that explains why I like came around on a Thiero too. But I think he's a lot closer to Kaminga or Miles Bridges than Stanley Johnson. I think he
I
showed.
I, I would agree. I would agree. Nobody
I
had
feel like
like
what he
the
should.
the hype train around Stanley Johnson. And I don't know if you like
Yeah,
back when he was coming out of high school, then at Arizona, like he had some good PR people. He had some
yeah, he
good PR
did.
working for him.
Arizona was like crushing it and marketing their versatile wings back then. Because remember, I was convinced Raleigh Alkins was going to be like an all NBA player for years to come or something. Like they had like a monopoly on those athletic wings for a while. But yeah, I think Thiero is me. I would say like the offense is already ahead of. Maybe I shouldn't say that until we see it on an NBA court. But I think the offensive ceiling is a lot higher than Stanley Johnson's. But I probably didn't feel that way 10 years ago, though. You know.
That was the Arizona teams with Alonzo Trier,
Oh, so wait, what year was must have been like 2018 or something about it, I guess.
right? I should know this.
I think Stanley Johnson's older than that. I'm gonna guess he was drafted in 2016.
Alonzo 20 Stanley Johnson was there 2014, 2015.
Okay.
Checking in
So,
at 6'7", 245.
jeez, big
How did
dude.
how did that not work, man? With his athleticism,
Not enough offense.
not enough offense. Choose a player. All right, yeah, Alonzo Trier was not on this team, but he was on the teams with Raleigh Hawkins.
Hmm. My guy.
Glad we went down this mid 2010s college basketball Arizona rabbit hole here on the Adou Thiero NBA scouting report video. But that's where we get Adou Thiero. I think we're both pretty high on his potential, what he could be. Could potentially be a steal at the end of the first round.